Perfect. Hey, everybody, back again. Super excited to be here with Trevor. Trevor's the founder of Parcel. And as you may know, Truflation and Parcel announced a partnership and excited to be working together. I just wanted to use this opportunity also to shed some light on who Trevor is, why he got into Parcel, the team behind building an amazing protocol that got a lot of traction and very dear to my heart because ultimately creating synthetic real estate, which is super excited. So Trevor, welcome. Thank you for joining and taking the time out.
Stefan, thank you, my friend. Super excited to be here.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with my background and then we can go into what Parcel is. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to ask, obviously. We started Parcel 3 years ago. Before Parcel, I was a portfolio manager at a couple of hedge funds, focused on the TMT space. Internet software and payments was my bread and butter, and that's how I got introduced to crypto at that time, and data infrastructure as well. And before that, I started off in a few banking houses. So the reason why we started Parcel during COVID, there was an extreme amount of real estate volatility. And we're sitting there, we're trading our portfolios, long, short, also a lot of market volatility as well. Obviously, COVID was a crazy time. But
and what were you? What were you trading there? When you say trading your portfolios, what were you trading? Were you trading on exchanges? Were you trading REITs? Were you trading?
We're trading stocks.
Stocks, exactly.
I manage between $500 and $1 billion in my portfolio. It was market neutral, low vol. So it's different
like
when you think about low vol meaning like. If we're talking in crypto terms, right, you'd have to, like, Bitcoin is like a X vol, ETH is more vol, right, than Bitcoin. So if I was long Bitcoin, I'd have to short less ETH so I could be net long, or something like that, because you're really playing the volatility. So whatever, it's low volatility, meaning you're basically market neutral, long and short. Let's say I'm long Apple and I'm short Microsoft, or basically a portfolio constructed of those types of stocks, focused on internet and software and payments. And then all the dynamics with lockdowns and the migration patterns. Basically, I was sitting with one of our other co-founders, and basically, we sat there. I was like, man, I wish I could just long Miami and short the hell out of New York. Basically, like, New York shut down, like, everyone's leaving, it's cold, I want to get out of here.
Everybody's going to Miami.
And so, and like, really, like, the only way to do that would have been to buy a house itself. Obviously, aside from like, okay, you couldn't travel. That's like minutia in that time period. But basically, like, you need a lot of capital to do so, right? And you need a lot of time as well. So that would be the one way you could do it. Then they had a lot of during that time, you started to see an emergence of fractional real estate, where you either buy a piece of equity in, like, a share, or a tokenized house, something like that. Those opportunities didn't really scale because you need a lot of capital and you need time to close the deal. So, imagine how many houses can you buy in a year and how much capital does it require? Basically, how do I get a portfolio? So anyways, that's where Parcel comes in. We basically said, can we make a synthetic market with price indexes that are effectively a stock chart of New York, of Miami, of San Francisco, of Dubai, and create a accompanying protocol or exchange where you can go long and short those markets based on the index price. That's effectively what Parcel is. It's a liquid real estate / derivatives market, and built on Solana. So, that's it. Now, peeling back the onion a little more, a lot went into that, because the first problem that we had to overcome, or let's call it an opportunity, the first opportunity we had was basically what you do, right? You track real-time inflation, okay? And you're a novel product, more or less, right? Like we did something very, very similar for real estate. There was no real-time real estate indicators. The best we had was maybe a Zillow or a Redfin index. And the gold standard, which was the Case-Shiller, okay, updated once a month on a 2-month lag. And so, we're in 2020, 2021. It's like, that's not good enough. Like, we can do better. Let's do something more real time. And so that's when I looped in our third co-founder, Jason, who was at Microsoft, focused on data science.
Yeah.
And we built a team around that called Parcel Labs. Parcel Labs is basically like a real-time real estate data layer that has an API itself. And the price feeds are one component of that API, but there's a bunch of other capabilities that Parcel Labs has. So, and then once that opportunity was at least under, we basically figured out what we had to do with that. And then concurrently, we were building the protocol. We've been through several iterations of the Parcel protocol, which again is a way to lever long and short these price indexes. And we're currently on our third version. It launched basically at the beginning of this year. We've done about $2.5 billion of volume throughout the year, which is up, maybe like 1,000 versus last year, 1,000x. But I think part of that's due to the product. We've obviously had a little resurgence in crypto, and the team built a great product, and we're adding a lot to it.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of startups, right? I mean, you start off with version 1, you build an MVP, you figure out all the flaws that you've got in there, you quickly wrap it into version 2, right? And try to improve on it, make it faster, or do whatever else you need to do. And sort of we went through a very similar project where we would just build an MVP, get it up quickly, see if it works, how does the market react to it, get fundraising off the back of it, go to the next version, right? Okay, next version is now scalable, we add more data feeds, it doesn't scale. And then, I assume you did sort of similar area where you started off maybe building out the centralized, capturing the data as fast as you can, putting it into spreadsheets, into a database, and then having that on a centralized base, and then writing that to the blockchain, and then maybe scaling that up on the blockchain itself, or building the exchange around that, which I think is pretty innovative, building the exchange and enabling the trade. But I guess that's your trading background that really brought that about.
Yeah, that was why the interest, basically it's like biggest market in the world, which is real estate, no way to trade it. There should be a way to trade it. Yeah. And Parcel is just giving you a venue to do so. Yeah. In terms of the versioning, there's a lag time. The data obviously needed to be collected, cleaned. We need to create systems. That system has evolved.
Deduped, all that stuff.
That system's evolved light years over the last. It's crazy. I'm very, very grateful. Our team is amazing. But basically, you need to run these price feeds in production for a certain amount of time before you have confidence in them, especially the first time you put out a liquid synthetic real estate market. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, we're going for it. You better be good. So we were basically, it took us probably 9 months to put our first version out. The price feeds have gotten a lot better over time. Yeah. We've gotten a lot more efficient, but they haven't changed so much. We've added international markets, and then the capabilities within Parcel Labs and the API itself have expanded extremely. I don't want to say exponentially, but maybe exponentially.
Significantly,
we started with the significantly. Thanks for the word. And then, so we started with the V1 that went in July. Relative July of 2022, and relatively quickly we were like, we got a problem. There was an architectural problem.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh God. It wasn't we're pretty we're very, very sensitive around security. So we're obviously
Yeah.
like auditing everything. Every piece of code that goes on chain is audited. But it was like a fundamental flaw. So we quickly went back to the drawing board and came out with a V2. And then that was also, it was better. It was closer to where we are now, but like wasn't it from a functionality perspective. It didn't scale, but it did get us some very great customer feedback that we can then take, mold, and do the next thing, right? Because that was really the gem. Because 2023 was a tough year for crypto generally, but
Anybody in
in
crypto.
particular, Solana was just brutal.
Oh yeah.
So any
after the FTX sort of stuff
yeah,
as well.
exactly.
Right?
It
Yeah,
kind of just
exactly.
it went to like a desert. So
Wow.
so we're very lucky in that sense. Like
just on that note, just curious, did you feel a flea of developers around that, or did you feel that the community actually came together tighter, and or the people that stuck around really held on to each other and really had the belief in Solana that it would come through?
yeah,
Or
you know, the at the beginning it was a little bit, you know, everyone had the
it was
thought
just a
like,
shock, right?
should we double down? You know, because you're flying home from their Breakpoint conference, and
Yeah,
it happened the
yeah, I
next
remember that
day.
in
Everyone was
Portugal.
feeling good. Yeah, it was crazy. So, you know, it's something so many ripple effects you don't actually know.
Yeah,
But because uh, blockchain technology is new and nascent as is, right? It's hard to have like this crazy conviction that Solana is the one. It's like picking a
yeah,
religion. It's like,
yeah,
this is the right religion. It's like, well, it
yeah,
may not be. You know what I mean? And like this one may be right. So who knows? Like, you know, like you can have a theory, but like who the hell knows
yeah,
which is right? So,
yeah,
you know, it's like just one of those things. And you know, and there were some a lot of people went multi-chain at that
yep,
time. Some people outright left a few
yeah,
NFT projects. And we had just came back into the market on like Valentine's Day or something like, so we were like 2 months after new product, and it's hard to really tell like what was going on
yeah,
because uh, liquidity, because we were like basically stalled out, so we had
yeah,
no like before and after picture.
yeah,
So activity was like pretty low, but again, back to my point earlier, there was one guy who was a smart guy, hedge fund guy, who got it, loved it because of the utility it could bring to the world, and he's like, I love this concept. Your product sucks, and it's like, okay, great. Like, let's go and talk about it. What could be
yeah,
better? You
yeah.
know, like all this, you know, the
Okay.
implementation.
Yeah,
There's just like a lot of things that weren't great,
yeah,
but it was great because you got the feedback you needed to push forward. So instead of deciding to go and just convert a sub, not a substandard, but basically like a suboptimal product, right? You would have basically taken the time to port a suboptimal product onto a different chain, for
yeah,
example, right? Making no progress on things that we know are not right. So
yeah.
we just said, okay, we're just going to do this, and we did it, and that was that. Like it was almost as simple as that.
So to simplify that, I mean, basically what you did is you took that window, took an opportunity to find and work with customers to build a better user experience, a better product, instead of wasting the time or allocating the resources to migrate and onto another blockchain using another programming language and then building a whole new ecosystem around that, which wouldn't have led to a better product and output in itself, but would have just enabled it running on new rails, for lack of a
Yeah,
better name, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, I
Yeah,
think like um, uh, there's like a group of people in crypto now,
yeah,
and then there could be a different group of people later.
yeah,
Okay, we've obviously built for now and want to have the liquidity, the value
yeah,
proposition,
yeah,
the security, everything that enables us to attract the institutions, for example, later. There
Yeah.
could be a tremendous need for institutions to hedge real estate, invest in real estate, liquid options, whatever.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, his problems were like, hey, I can't get my money out of the bank to get it on chain. They weren't like, hey, you're on ETH, or you're on Sol, you're not on ETH. No one cares. Like, it's so far beyond like the crypto Twitter banter. It's like, you can't even get the money on the chain. Like, it's like, so that was a little bit enlightening, right? Because he's a high value, or could have been a high value target. This is just like a prototype, right? There's money limitations to getting off on chain, and it just shows you like we're pretty early, there's still a long way to go. So it was just enlightening, right? Because it wasn't about the chain; it was about us and what we could do better, not about the chain. And so that's what we made it. We made it. Nice. Let's be our best self, and that's what we did.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, and largely that's an amazing. So you look at that period of time, you walk through, tough environment, and also the market was pretty shit. I mean, we had choke points coming left and right and center. Oh, yeah. You couldn't even on ramp, let alone off ramp. All the banks were being shut down that had anything to do with crypto.
You got to be a little crazy to be here, Stefan. I don't know. I don't know if like you just get crazier over time, or like you kind of have it. Like, I can't figure that part out.
But I will argue that what doesn't kill you makes you fucking stronger. That's
stronger. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. But what I do like is now, sort of, you look at that whole period, right? And I think it was around, for us at least, it was around towards the end of 2023 was last year, right? Yeah, sort of around this time last year when all of a sudden the first Bitcoin ETF started coming into the market. All of a sudden, there was a rumor that it was going to get launched in the new year. And then everybody was starting to get excited about that. And then ultimately, optimism grew. Everybody was looking for a new narrative. Meme coin was one narrative, right? That really took off and did really well. And ultimately, RWAs took off as well, right? So RWA narrative became a hot topic. And with BlackRock coming in, RWA has to come in, right? And so how did that sort of shift on with Parcel and for you, right? I mean, I think we went through a very similar period where it's like, oh man, you're tracking real world prices. Who cares? I get that anyway. If it's a bit late, and if I want it exclusive for me only, right?
Yeah, especially for
the financial world.
For generate alpha or
exactly.
Because once you put it out, then the value kind of becomes unfortunately commoditized. But I don't know on that. I think the themes in crypto are so fleeting, and the terms people use to define the RWA, it's like it's so broad. It's like, what is it? What is it even? Right? It's like we don't bring assets on chain, right?
Hey, it's like the cloud up there.
Inflation is not like just because and we're all in the real world, right? Like, so like in theory, it's all RWA, but it could help. I don't think there's been much like follow through. There's been some like good in terms of the thesis, right? And that just may be due to a choppy market now with like gets boring and like any thesis is kind of this is a market perspective. Our jobs aren't boring. I'm saying like the market narratives get tired.
Yeah, the narrative gets boring, right? Just everybody's so they go looking for a new. But I think partially we're so used to that, right? We live in a fast-moving, hyper volatile market, right? That is constantly going through trends, and every bit of news reverberates through the market at such velocity that we constantly desire that dopamine hit, that adrenaline rush, right? Unless you're building, right? When you're building, it's like
it's tempting, but it's also it could just wear you. So we try not to focus on it. It's going to do what it's going to do. I think all this stuff is largely, the biggest moves thus far have been unemployment, like a Japan yen carry trade unwind,
Yeah.
like, a shot in the ear. These things are all like way meta,
Yeah.
nothing to do with RWA. So
But we
I
still
think,
get super excited about a 2.9 to 2.5% drop in inflation, which actually has no impact on
no,
your day-to-day lives,
no,
right?
it does though. It does. I
Yeah.
think, well, now it's like a little bit, it's perverse now because people wanted it to be tighter
Yeah.
because it would warrant uh, a
A
bigger
drop
cut,
in interest
right?
rate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now it's like it wasn't good enough, right? Or bad enough.
Exactly.
Suboptimal.
We need it more so that we are likely to get a 50 basis point cut instead of
Exactly.
a 25 basis point cut. But
Yeah.
I think what I also like what you've done is not only have you improved the velocity of tracking price changes, um, you've also taken nationwide, you've actually taken it into cities, right? So you can actually get a very good perspective at a much more regional level in terms of how prices are moving in Austin versus Dallas versus New York versus Miami versus LA, right? So you've got a much better picture of how prices are evolving and where the population might be moving to as a result for greater demand or faster velocity in terms of turnover building, bigger supply, etc., prices coming down. So I think that's been a full-on lift, and that insight, I'm sure, is extremely valuable, but also allows for tradability, which actually, given your background, actually makes a lot of sense as to why you built it out. So
Yeah.
and why did you choose real estate? Just because nobody could travel and everybody was fleeing New York to Miami? And do you see a movement of people coming back from Miami to New
Uh,
York now?
now we're just focused on providing, like, we don't have a market view, right? Like,
Okay.
we're not, like, we're providing the exchange, we're providing the data, and the
Yep.
market should determine what they
Whatever
think
they
of
want
that,
to.
right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah. Yeah.
like, it's in short, we're like, we think this should exist in the world.
Yeah.
Do you? It's a liquid real estate
Yeah.
market, largest asset class in the world. We think it should exist. We hope you do too. Come and trade. Tell us what we can do better, and we'll
Yeah.
continue to iterate until this is like more mainstream. And so, but the initial concept. I mean, if you make it analogous to an equity portfolio, a stock portfolio, right?
Yeah.
I can be bullish on the Southwest. Like, I'll be long Tampa and Miami and Atlanta and Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
And I'm bearish on the Northwest. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm short Portland and San Francisco and yada yada yada, right? That's like what I used to do, but with stocks.
Yeah.
I'm bearish, I'm bullish on Amazon, and I'm bearish on Walmart or
Yeah.
whatever, right? You make a thematic trade. You can make there's a million ways to construct a portfolio, but that was effectively what we were going for. Basically, you can have a portfolio of real estate that you can trade in a relative manner, and a straight up. You can be all long, you can be all short, but
Whichever way you want to do.
yeah, whichever way you want to do.
Lever up.
And yeah, we have 50 times leverage,
Yeah.
and the cities, like, right now, we have many cities, and they are more granular than the Case-Shiller, for example, because our methodology is different. But
Yep.
they'll do like MSAs, right?
Yep.
Like, which is huge. It's like the New York MSA is parts of Connecticut, parts of New Jersey, New York, parts of Pennsylvania. It's like, okay, if I really want this New York exposure, I have like half of the Northeast here.
The
It's not
whole.
really New
Yeah.
York. So we thought that was important. And then we do have like some like sub cities like Brooklyn and Miami Beach. There's ways to get more granular, but at the same time, the more granular you get, our method, like with the way that the Parcel Labs price feeds are constructed today, there are like sparsity issues. Like, if you're hovering in on a
Yeah.
small block, one transaction could
Can throw
skew
it
the
out of whack.
market.
Yeah.
So that's really what we don't want. But anyways, that was the reasoning behind the cities.
Yeah, no, that was pretty. I mean, one of the things is we just launched our Argentina inflation index, right? So we were working with the government to sort of
That's amazing.
really, yeah,
Congratulations. Have you?
thank
Did you go
you.
down there?
I didn't actually. I haven't been yet, but I'm going.
When are you going?
I'm going on in October. Sort of, Mille
Congrats.
is hosting a tech forum.
There's something there. I feel like
I think
there's momentum in Argentina.
yeah.
I really think that.
And that's partially why we also did it. I mean, it was pretty challenging getting the data. Where do you find it? How do you aggregate it? We managed to sort of work relationships with some of the grocery stores down there,
Oh,
get
cool.
grocery food pricing. We worked with some of the kiosks to get a representation because kiosks are a big outlet of where people do their day-to-day shopping. And then a lot of it's also online. So you could actually get a number of it online. But right after we launched it, the government then, after having been working together, announced their 12 million data items that they now expose publicly via API, right? So the government then all of a sudden did a huge initiative. We want to make this data public as well, right? And so how do we expose much more of the data? So there's more transparency. And so, yeah, so we're pretty excited. I'm there.
If you have a contact down
Yeah,
there, I would love to. We'd love to get like a Buenos Aires price feed, or if it may be public. We'll look into it, like, obviously,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I would be curious if you've already made some inroads into the.
No, we made really
Yeah,
good inroads, lots of good contacts there,
yeah,
and really good support from influencers down to actually people on the ground into the actual tech committee and Millet and his system underneath him that actually does lot of the work and makes the stuff happen. Yeah, so it was really, really good support that we got there. Universities, they're all looking for ways to make Argentina great again, right?
yeah, yeah.
They're really on that path.
I'm pretty constructive. And funny story, back in like 2013, I read a book. I think it was called Digital Gold, or I think, don't quote me,
Yeah,
but Argentina, that was my first intro into Bitcoin, just kind of getting up to speed on it. But what struck me the most was the inflation in Argentina. They were
yeah,
describing it, and the fact that the grocery stores had pricers. So like you go over the other aisle, you're like, I'll just wait to get my eggs. Come back and get the eggs, and like the price is jacked up, and you're like, that blew my mind. I was like, okay, I get it. It really, like, it stuck with me. It was crazy to read.
yeah, and the government wouldn't announce inflation numbers, so they would just keep it quiet. They sent the minister of commerce. They sent him to jail because he obfuscated numbers. He cheated the numbers. Why? Because a lot of the bonds were tied to the inflation number, and so he corrupted the system. And so you can then just see how bad it was. And to your point, yeah, you go on one end of the aisle, and the next time you come back, and I forgot the eggs, got to go back. Oh, boom, it's double the price or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
right? It's like,
crazy. It's crazy.
and so you just had to spend your money so fast. I mean, the
Yeah,
velocity of the peso was really high because you didn't want to hold on to it, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
anytime you hold
yeah.
on to it, it's like,
Take
oh,
it, take
take
it.
it, take it, take it.
Give me 15 dozen eggs. Yeah.
And then they had like 27 different exchange rates as well, the yellow, the blue, the red. So they had different exchange rates for different products that you wanted to import, right? And then you needed
Yeah.
approvals to get those. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah. Good. I really, if they could get like a tech scene down there, I don't know. I'm not read up, so it may already be happening, but I do think that could be like a little hub.
Yeah, so I'd
So
love to. That's why I'm going down there. I really want to check it out and meet the people in person. And so I'm going for a whole week. I mean, he's putting on a tech forum, and so it'd be pretty exciting. And I think sort of getting real estate down there. I can only imagine with the tax credits that he's giving entrepreneurs to go down there. He's given sort of a golden visa. So if you go down there, set up a startup, you don't have to pay tax on that. I'm
really,
not sure what the crypto scenario is, but Bitcoin's legal down there. It's a legal tender, so he's made it legal tender. So and US dollar is now de facto currency. He's trying to peg everything to the dollar. So it's actually really interesting. And a
That's
lot
what
of
we like
tech
to
companies
hear.
down there.
That's what we
Yeah,
like to hear. Good. All right.
exactly.
When you come back, I'm going to hear what you
Yeah, I'll definitely,
thought,
I'll,
and then
I'll
maybe
give you the
we'll
down
make a
low.
trip.
I think it's definitely, anyway, real estate down there has got to be going up, and I'll let you know what that's like. It's still reasonable. I don't, it's good value. Let's put it like that, compared to some of New York. um, but yeah, no, I mean, the other thing I think is just it's sort of on your journey, right? So we've got now Singapore coming up. You've got Solana Breakpoint, after. Is this the first one? Yeah, it's after Lisbon, right? This is a year ago. Is that no? It was
No,
Amsterdam. We
two
had
years ago.
Amsterdam.
There was
Yeah,
Amsterdam
two
in the
years
middle.
ago.
Yep.
And so, are you going to Singapore? And what are you expecting, hoping to get out of the sort of breakpoint down there?
Yeah, I am going. We
Yeah.
got a few people from the team going. It's always kind of a,
Do you have a booth again this year? Last year, I'm right in Lisbon. I remember you had a
I
booth right
think,
in the middle of the event.
yeah, I am not. I got to run it by. I think we may, but we may not. The format this year is a little different, so
Yeah,
that's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
throwing us
Right. They,
off.
they
Like the
said no,
travel
no
and the
conferences,
format.
no speakers. Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
so. I'm kind of, and then there's like another conference going on at the same time. So if we don't have a booth, it's intentional. I think it's to kind of make the most of speaking to people and whatnot. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Balaji has his network state event that's
yeah, there's
taking
so
place as
much
well.
going on.
I
So
know.
I
It's
feel
like
like it's going to be
insane.
like, and there's F1.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what do we expect to get? It's always a crapshoot, but every time we go, it's a very fun and great to meet the people of the community and strengthen the bonds of people we already know. It's
Yeah.
just good to see people in person. So much of this last few years has
Remote.
been remote. So
Yeah.
so we'll look to hear. I mean, user feedback is something we really appreciate, and yeah, that's kind of it. And then we'll see where it goes. You kind of have to. Nothing can happen if you're not there. So we're always there.
Yeah, and I think one thing you bring out, right? You're working on a global basis. You've got city prices, prices of real estate across the world in Dubai and Middle East, and also Paris as well, London, right? So you also work with a lot of people around the world, and I think what crypto does is we get together rather than traveling to each of the markets. If it's not for business or for a specific purpose, you actually get to go to specific events around the world and meet up with a lot of the people that you've dealt with in, sort of via Zoom calls, etc.,
Yep.
in
Exactly.
person. Which,
Yeah.
um,
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
I
always
mean,
a
in the
good
end, you do people with
good
people, you
event.
do business with people, right? I mean, it's
Yep.
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. You're going.
And then your so from a growth perspective, right? What are you looking to where are you looking to take Parcel? Do you have any sort of on your roadmap? Do you have any ambitions and ideas? Go into new cities, build new different types of products, or just really scale, get more liquidity on there, and that's
Yeah.
really the core focus.
For the protocol itself, so we a couple weeks after we launched, we launched rental price feeds, which are another product, probably a little more, it's maybe even more novel
Yeah,
than real time home sale prices.
yeah,
But we do think that over time, that's a large market because people who are investing in houses as investment properties are very, very focused on cash flow. So,
yeah.
and rent
Especially now.
prices and fluctuations of rent is actually a viable instrument to hedge cash flows. So we launched rents, and then a couple weeks ago we put out a vote for Dubai. The Dubai price feed has been untradable but live on the DApp. So we're very excited about that. First and only global real estate market. It got voted in, and we'll launch it here shortly. And then we'll continue to roll out international markets. And then we'll also launch token perps, like just the majors like Bitcoin,
Nice.
Solana, and Sol,
Yeah.
just to give traders like kind of what they want on one platform. And that's like kind of the near term roadmap. There's some more architectural things that we're thinking through in terms of design of the exchange itself, accepting different types of collateral, and things of that nature. But those will take a little longer because it's smart contract related.
How do you find related if I own a sort of a position in New York real estate? How do lending markets react to that as collateral? Do they react to that? Are they open to that? Are they more amenable? Do I get better LTVs associated with that? Or is that something you think that is underappreciated, and as such you're trying to incubate something like that in Parcel and on Parcel?
Can you repeat that? Like the concept?
Yeah, so let's say, sort of I have a synthetic representation of
Oh,
New York real
yeah.
estate. I want to borrow against that. I have a position of 100 of whatever. Can I borrow against that? Can I find a lending protocol that will do that for me, or do I have to do it on
Yeah.
Parcel itself?
Yeah. No, today, no.
Yeah,
Because it's an account level. Uh,
yeah.
no, but over
It's
time, those are the
confined,
types of
right?
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Over time, those are the types of things. Basically, like in short, the underlying principle of what I was saying is capital efficiency.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how do you borrow it?
yeah,
Borrow land or you get good yield on the underlying collateral.
yeah,
Yeah, you could have like a synthetic value of the New York real estate that's like
yeah.
USDC, and it could call on that. So there's different things, but we've been
So I can get a liquid representation of that, right? And I can use that liquid token somewhere else, but it's all locked
exactly.
within. Yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is conjecture. We're talking. We're just spitballing, but we don't.
Yeah. No, just
You know what I'm saying?
brainstorming here. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's those are the types of things. Just
Right.
that's what the ecosystem likes: is capital efficiency, fluid money, and then we just have to find ways to. We made leaps and bounds strides this year from last year, and now we have a steady and passionate, amazing community that can give us feedback and punish
Yeah.
us and yell at us, but all in good faith and tell us where we need to do better. And that's great. We're grateful for the community and their support. And one of the things that comes with that is user feedback and product feedback and things that we can use to grow,
Yeah.
both to attract new users, but also retain users and enhance liquidity on the platform.
So just from an experience perspective, right? So you've gone through a journey where I mean, yeah, on wild rides. If you look at the last couple of years after COVID, the breakdown, FTX, and then choke points, and then, but you actually did also go from being a private company in a way to going through a TGE experience, right? And now you're mark to market all the time. How's that? How was the experience in terms of for you? I mean, we did the same, right? We went through a
Yeah.
TGE this year as well. We had an amazing run up, did really well, but it was, I mean, the lift for a TGE is definitely something I underappreciate, and I don't think
Yeah.
I never appreciated that.
Yeah. It's we had some legal. We had a lot. We have good counsels and whatnot. So
Yeah,
some of the like legal structures and stuff were set up way long ago, but it were kind of never brought into play. But yeah, it was a lot of work, and it's like isolated work, kind of to me and one other
yeah,
person maybe, especially on like the listing side and the marketing side, and so much has to happen, right? Like
yeah,
yeah, ideally, right? You want a market has to be open, right, quote unquote. You have to have product traction. You have to have buzz. You have to have Twitter. All of that shit needs to happen at the same time. And then that's it. All these things. It's like this magic pot that you need to stir. And then it was like something we've always wanted. We're grateful we're out. But yeah, a ton of work. But now we're out there, and the focus is to grow the community, grow in protocol value, and do what's right for all the stakeholders. So that's kind of our focus now, our quasi mandate.
Yeah,
to some extent.
Yeah, no, I was super surprised. I mean, for the lift, right? So the whole, to the listings, the exchanges, the marketing you need to do, the legal components that you need to wrap around it, all of that, and then while still building the product, right? You can't stop the development and the build, and then how do you sort of separate the two? What teams are working on what? Everybody's of course getting distracted because certain news just filters across, and so
exactly.
It's really
that was underappreciated how intense that period is. And no one could really, no one can really prepare you for it because it's like.
It
could work.
The thing is, you do it once, and then you don't do it again because you're just, it's like it's really an experience you gain, but you really have not much benefit from that experience.
There's no
beyond, right?
Nature of it. It's kind of like a one-time thing. Yeah, unique to this space.
Yeah, you're definitely unique, but definitely after you've done it, I think there's definitely a level of confidence and just, sort of having done it, you've got all the scars to show. And again, it's something that makes you stronger, right?
We hope one day, we'll show your arm and be like, for sure. I mean,
as individuals, especially, maybe
you get stronger and like hard things feel a little easier. I think. So yeah, it's fun. It's a ride.
Yeah, it's a ride.
Try and enjoy it, right?
Yeah, the journey's part of the way to get there.
Is a ride.
Yeah. No, I'd love to sort of continue and build on our relationship and the partnership between Truflation and Parcel. What else could we do together? We talked about doing an actual report together in terms of your methodology, our methodology. How could we combine that in getting more granular in actual nationwide inflation reporting and or even into statewide inflation reporting based on city performance in real estate, right? Real estate is it's 25%. I mean, if you believe Truflation, if you take out utilities and other elements, it's about 25% of spending. If you believe the government numbers, you're looking at 36% of household spending. Rental is a big component, right, as well. And I think if you've done a lot of inroads there, I think there's a lot of activity that we can work on there. We had
let's what we should do is get lunch at Breakpoint and
we'll do that.
Brainstorm on it.
Yeah,
especially what would be incrementally. I feel like an outsized benefit would be like Argentina, like somewhere where you're kind of new / like very, very tech forward and helping them, because that new government seems to be focused on like solving problems, which you can help them do. And how do you do that? Through new and innovative technology. So the impact that we could have on people, it may be a smaller like population, but you could have a greater effect because they have like a urgency and like a motivation and intensity to drive forth using, basically improve via technology. And you kind of, hit the ground running in terms of being used and utilized. So, that's another one. Obviously, probably longer tail because we're not in Argentina at this moment, but you get the point. Like something where it's like, there's a lot of momentum and motivation.
Yeah, I mean, we've been, I've just been in Europe and looking at the cities there. We did UK. I was invited to the UK and then a lot of inflation traders in a room. I didn't know that there were that many, but there were like 100.
Shit. They're like, here's the inflation king. You walk in, and they're like, what is it going to do? What is it going to do?
Exactly, pretty much 150 people.
Tell me right now. Tell me right now.
Managing AUMs of billions and hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. Actually, in aggregate, I would reckon the companies represented there had over trillions of dollars in AUM, right, in total. And it's just like, fuck.
You
It's
just
like,
walk in.
but it was pretty cool. It was anyway, it's just they're really interested, and they just trade yield, right? They're just trading yield. They're trading tips or linkers, as they call them in the UK, and they were really keen on obviously Germany, France, Italy, Spain. What are the inflation numbers there, right? And Japan's a big market. We've been looking at Japan quite a bit. It's an important economy in the world. China, obviously. You don't get many numbers out of China. China doesn't like to share too many numbers.
Not very transparent.
So it's like anyway, those are the bigger economies where their loans matter, right? And trading yields and knowing what inflation is in those markets. But I think Latin America, like you said, is identifying a country that's trying to be innovative, trying to leverage technology, change things up, and then riding on that wave a bit as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You fit in. To value.
They're a bit more. They're open to it, right? They're looking for ideas and suggestions, and it's not just into a brick wall. And virtue signaling. Yeah, we'd love to do that, and then it's just like it doesn't go anywhere.
We'd love to be data driven.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. No, let's catch up in Singapore. Really look forward to catching up again. And yeah, look, where and how can people follow you? Find out more of what about Parcel, about yourself, and the thought process.
First off, great conversation. Thank you, Stefan. The Parcel Twitter is at Parcel, Parcl. Parcel Labs, which is the data entity, is at Parcel Labs.
Yeah.
I'm at Trevor J Bacon, all on Twitter, and that's really where we live. You can join our Discord if we're using the product. There's a link on the website, app.parcel.co, or just parcel.co for the brochure site. I think that's kind of the main lines.
No, awesome. Thank you, Trevor. Amazing. Parcel.co, go check it out. Really, yeah. Look, I think, I got into RWAs, or I didn't even know I got into RWAs at the first I got into inflation calculation and just not believing that inflation was transitory. But what I really like about where the opportunity is around synthetic equivalent of what we're experiencing in the real world, right? How can we bring that and put these on new rails? It doesn't matter what rails they run on, because nobody gives a rat's ass. They care about the actual experience and the ability to interact with things that they can affiliate with, right? And they can relate to real estate. We can relate to housing markets, people movement, etc. And so, Great job.
Likewise.
Tenacious and really glad to be partnering together, and look forward to doing much more together.
Yes, likewise. All right, Stefan, we'll see you on the other side.
See you on the other side. Here now, I'm going to hit